I'm going to go ahead and call the Wednesday, August 21st, 2019 Council Presentation Ceremony to order. The first presentation I have is the Recognition of Line Workers Appreciation Day. I'd like to go ahead and invite up all of the line workers, as well as anybody else related to the electric department that helps keep the grid on, make sure that we all have power in times of need. So if you guys would come on up so I can present this proclamation. Power is always something that we take for granted. We take for granted, we turn the switch on and the light comes on, you know, the air conditioner works, all of those types of things. But as soon as a hurricane comes or we have a power outage, you start to really realize how much we rely on power day in and day out. So it's these guys up here that make sure that we have the necessities of life when it comes to hot water, electricity, air conditioning, things of that nature. So what I wanted to do is present a proclamation to them for all their hard work and all they do for the city and all the residents of the city here. So with that, I'll present this proclamation, and it says, whereas the electric grid that powers the city of Homestead must be maintained in operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, in rain, heat, hurricanes, and tornadoes, and must be capable of withstanding any hazard that occur. And whereas electric line workers are a cohesive group that must work as a highly effective team in very hazardous situations under rigorous conditions that respond to disaster areas to restore power to victims' home. And whereas the line workers from Homestead are dedicated and hardworking men who risk their lives daily, working in extremely dangerous situations to ensure the reliable delivery of electric energy to the city of Homestead's homes and businesses. And whereas during the Atlantic hurricane season, Florida line workers, including the city of Homestead line workers, remain prepared to work tirelessly day and night to safely and quickly restore power to residents when needed. And whereas it is most fitting and proper that the city of Homestead set aside a special day to recognize Homestead's hometown heroes, our electrical line workers. Now therefore, I, Stephen Shelley, the mayor of the city of Homestead, does hereby proclaim this 21st day of August 2019 as Line Worker Appreciation Day in Homestead. Thank you guys very much for all that you do. Would any of you like to speak or say anything? You've been nominated. All right, well, thank you very much again for all that you guys do for the city and making us look good and making our residents very happy on a day in and day out basis. Thank you. I'd now like to invite up Sarah Knight to talk about and do a presentation about the Open Doors Brain Injury Clubhouse in Miami in support of her husband Charles Knight and brain injury awareness. For many of you guys up here, my colleagues, maybe you remember Charles Knight. He's been very active in our community for many years, and it's good to see him again. It's been a while, but he's always been very active, volunteered in the community. He's past president of the Junior Orange Bowl. He's been active in Boy Scouts and former member of the South Day Chamber of Commerce. And he suffered a pretty traumatic brain injury. And so his wife would like to come up today and talk a little bit about opportunities that exist in the future in other places than Miami-Dade County and bringing something similar here. So with that, I'll turn the microphone over to you to talk to the council. Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Mayor Shelley. Today, I'm here to talk about brain injury. It's very personal to me. I suffered one myself, and it's difficult to come up with the words, but I hope that you all will listen to what my wife and sister-in-law have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want the microphone or the clicker? The clicker.
Okay. So today we're here to speak about the Brain Injury Clubhouse, the Open Doors, Open Minds concept that we have. The concept came out of as a result of Charles's cardiac arrest that he suffered, and as a result now has an anoxic brain injury. So we've come together as a family. We looked beyond Miami to see what was available and realized quickly that what wasn't available here for people who have suffered a brain injury. There's 67,000 people living here in Miami-Dade County with a brain injury. And so in our research, we discovered the Brain Injury Clubhouse model. Every 9 seconds, somebody is affected with a brain injury, suffers a brain injury, whether it be an anoxic brain injury or whether it be a traumatic event. And the people who are affected, everyone around you. It's not only the person, the survivor, but it's also families, social workers, the people who are working in the hospitals. We have a team of doctors and therapists who support us every day in our Charles's recovery from this event.
And the community.
And the community around us. We've had an outpouring of support when the event happened. People were reaching out to us and are continuing. And so now we want to, as Charles was played such a role in the community, we want to continue that work that he did. You want to go?
Oh, sure. I have to put my glasses on. Okay, so a clubhouse. It's a community-based program. Oh, I'm sorry, is that better? It's a community-based program. There are 4 areas in a clubhouse. There's a business area, a building maintenance sort of area, a culinary area, and an advocacy community also. So it capitalizes, the thing about, let me back up and say that the most interesting and somewhat devastating also piece about a brain injury is that you keep your long-term memory. So you know you have skill sets that can be utilized, but it's as if every morning you wake up and you can't remember exactly how to retrieve that skill that you know and then apply it. So it takes years to be able to recreate those pathways, to be able to initiate again. And there are so many models in other states. We've begun 2 efforts. One is what we're doing now, which is advocacy and creating awareness, and then creating this clubhouse model also. We want to create an opportunity for people to be able to use those skill sets, and that's how the clubhouse model works. There are 37 tenants. This program exists in Massachusetts, in Connecticut, in New Jersey, in Virginia, and Georgia, Kansas, and Missouri. Charles, and we have one here in the state of Florida in Jacksonville, managed and funded by Brooks Rehab. Charles is actually leaving us on Saturday to go to Virginia. So he actually can't be part of his family because we don't have a place here for him to go and capitalize on those strengths. When you use a strength, you have to use other things that you're not as good at anymore. And if you think about even the easiest way for me to explain it is thinking about an infant who learns to walk. They kick their legs and they exercise and they do that for months and months and months. And then all of a sudden, 12, 14 months into it, then they're walking. They're still stumbling a little bit, but they have all those muscle groups, and that's what your brain is. It's a muscle. And we have to be able to provide opportunity for people to be able to use those strengths. So, yeah. Oh, that's the other. The other models in the community, all of their outcomes are in the 90s. People participate oftentimes up to 100% in their communities doing outreach. So one of the things that Charles and I did when he first came back to Florida was to participate in building homes here in Homestead with the Habitat for Humanity, building, I think we built 10 homes in 12 days. And that was something that Charles really, he remembered working with and he could still do, and that's what we did. We would just like the opportunity for all people with brain injury to have a place where we can come together and figure out what everybody's strengths are, and then contribute again to the community.
So Side by Side Clubhouse, that's in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It started originally with 3 members and has grown significantly. 92% of members have found meaningful relationships in the clubhouse, and 94% of families noticed improvement in the members since joining the clubhouse. 97% of members considered staff to be supportive, and 100% of case managers reported that programs is beneficial to not only their client, but to their families. It's a benefit, and it's something that we don't have and that we need. And that is our mission, is to build one here in our community. It improves your health and wellness, your life skills, your service coordination, your ability, your awareness, family support, social activities, and that community reintegration, which is so hard after a brain injury.
One of the things about brain injury also, you have this intense time of acute care. You have a cardiac event, or you have cancer, or you have a stroke, and you're just trying to heal. There is an outpouring typically from your family and your friends, your community, but there's just that healing time that you have to kind of manage. And then there's the vocational rehabilitation piece of it. Well, for brain injury, you have a gap between caring in terms of acute care and then getting back to vocational rehab. There's this gap where you're not able to get into vocational rehab yet because you can't qualify in terms of being ready to have side-by-side work assistance in terms of training, because you can't remember everything yet, and you need time to practice those things. That's what Clubhouse does.
So today we just wanted to share what our vision is for the community, for the people of Miami-Dade and specific. Homestead is such a major home for Charles, as he served FPL and gave back to the community, and we wanted to share today with you what we are doing and what is of need here.
And have you had any conversations with, say, Baptist Health or any of the major
Yeah,
healthcare
we've
providers?
had conversations with Jackson, we've had conversations with Baptist about what we've been doing.
Proposals, and have you
Yeah.
had a chance to speak with any of like the state legislators or senators?
Yes, we have actually spoken with Vance Lupus, and he is working with us currently.
Perfect,
Yeah.
because I think that'd be good to work with the Dade delegation. I think myself and probably my colleagues as well would be willing to help advocate or help make those connections if you haven't already made some connections with some of the local Dade delegation. Because it looks like here you're talking about a budget of, what, $535,000 or so in order to carry out such a mission here, or at least start up a program here?
Yeah, it's about, and now that number, because of is high because of the real estate. So in Virginia, the operating is about $350,000. So if the space were given to us, or if we could partner with one of the hospitals, then or a municipality, then those dollars obviously would be less. And then it's the continuing of the fundraising, because it is it's not a huge operating amount.
Right.
And one of the things with brain injury, is what happens is your mental health is a huge issue, and I know that is something that the governor certainly is addressing this year, is the mental health. And in Virginia, all of the clubhouses, they're are all funded under mental health, and that was something that was done through one of the state senators. So
Okay, perfect.
that we've also been in contact with. We've been in contact with the Senator Deed's office, and also Charlie Baker's office in Massachusetts. The funding for brain injury doubled in one legislative period, the appropriation, so it's up to about 17 million in Massachusetts. And then we're also currently working with a founder of the Brain Injury Association of America, Marilyn Spivak, who so coincidentally grew up in the same town that we grew up in, or lived in the same town we grew up in, back in Massachusetts. And so she's working with us as well, because she wrote the original legislation in Massachusetts with Governor Dukakis many moons ago, after her child suffered a brain injury.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues? Any additional? Thank you very much, I think, for
Thank
bringing
you
this,
so
this
much.
issue to light to us. And
Thank
I know
you.
I'll be happy to work with you. I know Vice Mayor, obviously, this is something that's important to him.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he wasn't able to be here
Thank
quite
you.
yet. He'll be a little bit later, but
Thank
we'll
you.
continue to work with you where we can. So,
Okay, thank you so
really
much. We really
appreciate
do
your
appreciate
time.
your time.
Perfect. Thank you guys
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. Our final presentation is recognition of Somerset Academy STEM designation. Councilwoman Faircloth.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here, those of you that are here and those that may be watching our presentations. Many of you know I'm an educator. I'm a teacher to the core, and I love providing exciting teaching and learning opportunities for children. And I'm excited tonight that we have two top-tier principals here, two principals who I have the utmost respect for. I don't talk to them often, but I follow them on social media, and I see the great work that they're doing in their schools. And one of the initiatives that I have moving for the next couple of years is working with schools to achieve a STEM designation. That is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to ensure that our kids are career ready, providing them with the skill set to be able to compete and earn high-wage jobs. And the two principals that are here today, Adalia Suarez and Lyda Morales, if you can please join me. These two principals not only received their STEM designations, but they received their STEM designations through Advanced Ed Accreditation, which is a higher model, a higher threshold, and it's a more global designation as opposed to the local designations. So Adalia Suarez, she is a principal of two schools, Somerset City Arts and Somerset Oaks, and Lyda Morales is the principal of Somerset Soho, right here in Homestead. And I wanted Adalia to talk a little bit about what this process means and why it is important to provide our students and the community with this STEM designated embedded instruction. Talk to us a little bit about that.
First, on behalf of all of Somerset, we want to thank you for this recognition. It is an honor to be here in the city of Homestead, and it's also an honor to be recognized in something that's very important to us. And I'm going to start with the why. The why is very important. We talk about having our students be career ready, but yet as a school system, unfortunately, we're not focusing enough on the skill set that they need, those 21st century skills. And the truth is that it's important, and we need to make it a priority. And we both got designation through Miami-Dade County, and it was a wonderful process. It was very reflective, and we were able to get started on the right foot. But through Advanced Ed, we really were able to take it to the next level. We were able to really embed 21st century soft skills in our classroom and look at STEM not through standards, not through this microscope, but through this global concept, and really develop the whole child. We talk about developing the whole child, but yet we don't do it. And through Advanced Ed, we were able to reflect all stakeholders were involved, from the leadership team all the way down to community members, students, parents. They were all part of the process. So we all earned this together, and it really encouraged us to continue to innovate and bring something different to our schools. So we're very, very excited about the process. Oh, yes. So we were the first two public schools that earned advanced ed STEM certificate. There were only 4 schools in Miami-Dade County, and there were private high schools. So we were very excited to be the first, and Soho was right after us. So we could say that we were among the first.
Congratulations. And I know just recently, because I always do my homework, you were training other principals. You you facilitated a workshop, I guess, for opening of schools to train other principals how to facilitate this process at their schools. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and your knowledge base so that more schools can become STEM certified through advanced accreditation process. So today I have something for you. This is awarded to Ms. Idalia Suarez, Somerset City Arts, and Somerset Oaks for your recent STEM designation, and this is presented by myself, the Education Committee, in which one of our members are here today, Brandy Ramirez, and the City of Homestead. But in addition to the certificate, of course, me being thematic, I have something else for you. So I am going to provide you with your STEM designated lab coats. Your lab coats. So as you continue to create those STEM opportunities in your school, you can definitely look the part. So congratulations again, and those of you who are here representing Somerset Soho, show your principals some love. And I would like to invite you up here so that we can take a family photo. So come on up, come on up. If there are any students out there, teachers, come on up to be a part of this photo opportunity. You've done the work as well with these leaders, and we want you to be a part of this presentation. So come on up at this time.
That concludes our special presentation ceremonies from the City Council. We'll now adjourn and resume back at 6 o'clock for our regularly scheduled council meeting. I would like to call the Wednesday, August 21st, 2019 council meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. This evening we will have the invocation by Reverend William Chambers III, pastor of the Church of the Nazarene, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilwoman Fairclough and the Homestead Police Explorers. Would you please stand?
Please join me in prayer. Almighty God, thank you so much for life and the opportunity to live right here in this southern part of the United States and the southern part of the peninsula. What a beautiful surrounding we have, and what energetic individuals and what resources. We could not provide them ourselves. But more than that, the individuals that are here working, a tremendous resource for our community and the county and the state. And we pray your wisdom upon us tonight as we deliberate. May there be equanimity and even-handedness in the decisions that are made. May we think not just for the present, but for the future. Guide us as we're coming into the election season, that your best will be done, that each of the candidates and those involved will find your undergirding strength and their best foot based upon your energies and resources and vision will come forward. And may we progress. Thank you for the young people, the police explorers and others that are stepping in. They don't realize it, but as much as we do, but we're counting on them to be here when we're gone, when we're removed from the scene. But we know that you are forever, and we ask that your blessing will remain upon us and our community. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Maldonado. Here. Councilwoman Fairclough. Here. Councilman Roth.
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey. Here. Councilman Guzman. Here. Vice Mayor Burgess. Here. Mayor Shelley.
Here. Any additions, deletions, or deferrals? None. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ayes carry. Number 5, public hearing, quasi-judicial public hearing.
Yes, please be advised the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on this evening's agenda. Hearing none, at this time, the clerk will swear in any persons who wish to testify on the following quasi-judicial items. So anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on the quasi-judicial items, please stand, raise your right hand to be sworn.
Please repeat after me. I. Please state your name. Hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you. You may be seated.
Tab 2 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by ABA Solutions for Autism, Inc. of an approximately .23 acre parcel from R1 one-family zoning district to professional business restricted B1A zoning district for property located at 41 Northwest 13th Street as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second and final reading.
Staff report.
Yes, sir. The staff recommends the mayor and council approve this ordinance requesting the rezoning from R1 to professional office, which is B1A. The applicant is ABA Solution for Autism, and they've requested this rezoning for a single-family parcel located at 41 Northwest 13th Street. The fact is that this is a land-use LCU. LCU is implemented by B1A and not the R1. The R1 actually is not implemented by the land use. So as these properties come in, it's a good thing to change them over so that the land use and the zoning are compatible. This did pass on the first reading last month 5-0. We're recommending approval.
Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, this is a public hearing. I'll open it to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? If so, come up and please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, I'm Giselle Cordero. I'm actually the founder of ABA Solutions for Autism. We are looking for the rezoning to be able to open a center in this address. We have been working in the community for the last 2 years, providing services either at home or schools or daycares. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions at this time.
Okay.
So, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
Thanks. Any additional public comments related to this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comments. Do I have a motion? Moved, and do I have a second? Moved and second, and roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough? Yes. Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Vice Mayor Burgess? Yes. Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 3.
Yes, tab 3 is a final order of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a certificate of use requested by HAVANA Spice, Inc. to permit the sale of beer, wine, and alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption in conjunction with the operation of a restaurant located at 1370 North Homestead Boulevard. It's legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
Yes, sir, we're recommending approval of this certificate of use for Havana Spice. They operate a restaurant. The rules say that we need to review them to the code, section 3-11. We've analyzed their request. They meet all the provisions of the code. They'll be selling beer and wine in conjunction with the pre-existing restaurant. Past planning and zoning last month as well, 4-0. We're recommending approval.
Thank you. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, this is a public hearing. I'll open it to the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Eduardo Galindo, and I'm representing Havana Spice at 1370 North Homestead Boulevard. Any questions and concerns due to this matter could be asked. That's pretty much it.
Perfect. Thank you. No questions at this time. Thank you. Any additional public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Councilwoman Fairclough? Councilman Guzman? Yes. Vice Mayor Burgess? Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 4.
Yes, tab 4 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting installation of public art as part of the Marriott TOWNPLACE Suites hotel property located at 935 Northeast 30th Avenue as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
Yes, sir, we're recommending approval of the placement of art for the Marriott TOWNPLACE Suites. This is kind of an old application. This was originally approved, the site plan was originally approved in 2013, and the applicant had come back in 2017 with the art. The artist wouldn't agree to the terms with the city. The applicant went back, found a new artist to provide a comparable piece of art. I think there's a picture in it in the package, and it meets all the conditions that we're concerned with, and it's a compliant artist, and we're recommending approval.
No questions or comments from the council. This is a public hearing. I open it to the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. Mr. Cordino, these art pieces are supposed to have a value. Is that something that we, is given to us by the applicant and then we just accept it and assume that everything is accordingly?
Yes, yes, the
Do they give us a certificate of,
it gets appraised. That's, yeah, the applicant gives us the value and shows us an appraisal. And we use the appraiser's value as as we take that
Okay.
for granted.
thank you, Mayor.
Any additional, Councilman Guzman?
Mr. Cordino, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cordino, does that value have to be a certain amount for the city?
Yeah, that value's based on the formula, and I think it's 1/2 of 1%, and so in $6 million, this was a $30,000 art piece that they were to put in.
It has to be 1.5%, you said?
I think it's a 0.5% based on the total value. Based on the rules that we have put in place when we implemented the program, and I think the last time we reviewed, I'll have to look back when we reviewed it, but we modified this ordinance probably in 2011 and 2012 to the current number. We revised it down to that. I believe it's a 0.5% of the value. Correct me, is it on the first 1.5, the first amount?
And after putting that amount down, have we seen an uptake of people applying to do more of these art pieces in our city?
No, they're a requirement. I don't believe many people do these voluntarily.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. The way this program came about, Councilman Guzman, was back in probably about 2009. I think we started working on it when I first came into office. And what it was that it gave us, the applicants and large buildings, an opportunity. They could either make a settlement, or pay a settlement to the city, or they could put something that represented that amount of money that was due to the city in place of it, in their property, as long as it's open to the public and everybody and whomever wants to come in and see it, come in and see it. And as Mr. Cordino did state, from the original numbers they were brought down at the will of the council. Some people felt it was a little bit much where we had started the numbers at, so in 2011 they were adjusted downward, and it has become, it enhances not only the city if with opportunities for us to spend the money on art in public places as so is deemed, or it also makes a place to enhance their facility, whether it be the hotel or whatever it is that's being built. Something to enhance the aesthetics. So, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. Thank you. And I think recently, most of the applicants that have come through, I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years, 3 years or so now, they've opted for putting the art on their own property versus the donation directly, or is it a good mix?
I want to say a lot of times they'll contribute of the fee in lieu of placing the art. And then what the city would do is implement the master plan and put the art out there or in one of its facilities with that. So I think that most people are contributing the sum.
Okay, that's good to know. I was thinking, because I know it comes before us, the bigger projects seem to come before us, and it seems like the last couple have always had some sort of art proposal, whether it be tiles or pictures or statues. So it's good to see that we're also still generating some dollars for our own use.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great, thank you. Any additional questions, comments from council? Seeing none, do I have a motion? Move it. Moved, do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Faircloth? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Yes. Vice Mayor Burgess? Yes. Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 5.
Yes, that completes your quasi-judicial items. Moving on to legislative items. Tab 5 is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 24, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Article 1 in general, and Article 2, Streets, to provide an exception to the prohibition on the use of public rights-of-way for sidewalk cafes along the Chrome Avenue corridor located within the city's Arts, Entertainment, and Antiques District pursuant to city-approved sidewalk cafe permit, and amending Chapter 30 zoning, Article 1 in general, and Article 4 supplemental district regulations to provide definitions for
take over?
Where'd he leave off? Start from the beginning of the title? You okay?
Definitions and modified sidewalk and open-air cafe dining regulations, providing for severability, inclusion in the code, conflicts, and an effective date.
Staff report. Who's?
Yes, sir. You want to? Go ahead. We started this in last month. Mayor, Vice Mayor.
Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Vice Mayor Burgess requested that we review the regulations for the issues related to outdoor seating. We looked through the code. We realized you can't. Am I on the wrong thing?
You're back on. You're running.
Okay, got it. We looked through the code. We realized, we believe that the code was, in certain aspects, allowed outdoor seating, but in certain aspects was conflicting with itself and not allowing outdoor seating. And what we thought the best course of action to do is take this opportunity to clean up the code, clean up any ambiguities, remove any of the conflicting provisions. So you can see we did that through this. We have a clear place on the, to have public seating or seating for restaurants and outdoor cafes, and still maintaining clear thoroughfares on the sidewalks, and we're recommending approval.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. Yes, this, unfortunately, I was hoping we would have, in case anybody had a lengthy discussion, they wanted at the cow, but with the few items that we had, we postponed over here, and I didn't want to lose the time, so I asked them to please have an ordinance for us tonight, but discuss whatever. This was brought to my attention by a proprietor from downtown that they had sent some renderings over to the city of what they were proposing, so to give an idea so that we kind of knew what they were looking for too. And, you know, they think that this will enable them to do to attract more business to their facility, especially as the weather gets better on in the fall and the winter and early springtime. And it also will give the aesthetics of people wanting to congregate downtown to have a good time, eat dinner, sit outside, and it'll make it just give the whole area, you know, a look of more use in that too. So I thought it was good. When I started talking to staff, we, like Mr. Cordino stated, we kind of had conflicting ordinance language, so I asked them to clean it up and bring it back to us where it would enable our businesses, especially as we're trying to attract more restaurants downtown, to build the halo effect there. I thought it was important that we get it moving and give clear language and not, you know, take time to leave it dragging on. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And these are approved as a kind of a case-by-case special exception or special use permit versus as a matter of right, or how's it?
They are ancillary to an existing restaurant, so you have to have an existing restaurant. And then if someone wanted to do an open-air cafe, that would be on private property, or a sidewalk cafe that would utilize part of the sidewalk or public property, they would come in and administratively be reviewed and get a permit administratively. That's how this is set
But there
up.
is a price. It's not. They just can't go and open it up. Somebody will have looked at it. Staff will have looked at it. I guess that's the key, is to make sure that these things won't just kind of pop up of their own accord. You guys will guide them correctly to make sure that they follow the rules and it's not an obstruction and it makes sense. So, okay. Councilman Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For staff, I wanted to be clear on how far the entertainment downtown corridor goes. Is that from Campbell Drive to Lucy Street all through Chrome, or is there a certain street where that cuts off?
The southern border of the Arts and Entertainment District was, we modified the Arts and Entertainment District boundaries, I believe, maybe 2 years ago. And as I recall, the southern boundary used to be Maury Drive, and now it goes below Maury Drive because we modified it to include the Homestead Station project. So I don't have it in front of me, but the southern boundary is below the Homestead Station project.
So that
South
means
a couple of blocks, I believe.
that means that anybody that establishes a restaurant outside that southern boundary, whatever we're talking about today will not apply to that specific venue.
So the way this is set up is that any restaurant that's located in the B1 or B2 commercial districts could have an open-air cafe, right? If they wanted to do like a patio or something outside, they would be able to have outdoor seating pursuant to an outdoor open-air cafe permit. They would come in, they would apply for it. If a restaurant that is located within the Arts and Entertainment Antique District along the Chrome Avenue corridor, meaning that you're on either side of Chrome Avenue in that strip, then those restaurants in this area would only be able to avail themselves of a sidewalk cafe permit that would allow them to utilize a portion of the sidewalk in front of their business for a sidewalk cafe.
Got it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
And I think one of the important things as you look at differentiating from the art district down to other areas is that in the art district, the sidewalk is rather wide and able to fit most, a table. In some of the other areas to the south of there, the sidewalk gets very narrow and would not be able to go along with the standards that would be needed for wheelchairs and other type things to pass on the sidewalk too.
Councilman Guzman.
So in that corridor, I noticed that there's parking spaces right across or right in front of the restaurants that are there. Do we have a plan in place, or is there talks about making those parking spaces part of the sidewalk to make that just a tad bit bigger?
Development Service hasn't looked at that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Burgess, go ahead.
The people, the proprietors that spoke to me did not bring any request of that either. They felt that the sidewalk that was there for them now was plenty of room. I believe if we were to go and do stuff with the road, we would have a large can of worms that we're opening, and what's allowed and what's not allowed and all that. So that's all.
Councilman Guzman.
The only reason I was saying that is because now that we've got the parking garage is going to come online, I don't feel like there's a need for parking spaces directly across this or directly on that Chrome Avenue, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Now but our ordinance we passed recently that allows for kind of the valet parking style, that also would apply then to where those parking areas are to allow some flexibility for these restaurants and establishments, maybe to utilize the parking instead of for parking, but actually for valet style effort. So, any additional questions or comments from council? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open it to the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Yes. Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Faircloth? Yes. Councilman Roth? Yes. Vice Mayor Burgess? Yes. Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 6.
Staff recommends the mayor and council authorize the city manager to renew the contract with MARCUM LLP Accountants and Advisors for auditing services for financial audit, federal single audit, Florida single audit, and special compliance audits, the Children's Trust, TCT, GOB, and FEMA, if required, for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2019. Subsequent annual renewal may be mutually agreed to. Funding total amount, $159,200. The one-year renewal option fee includes assistance with the implementation of GASB statements, the effects of the new market tax credit transactions, special compliance audited for FEMA from the impacts of Hurricane Irma if required, and the estimated fee for the special compliance audit for FEMA would be $10,000.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public? I open the public hearing now. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilwoman Faircloth? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Yes. Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Vice Mayor Burgess? Yes. Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 7.
On August 15, 2019, Central Square Technologies, our current enterprise software provider, announced end of support of IBM's COGNOS Series 7 software effective October 1st, 2019, when the city's current maintenance agreement expires. COGNOS 7 is an IBM software package which is used to generate custom data reports, queries, and analyses. COGNOS 7 is currently used citywide by departments and is a critical component to their day-to-day operations. Staff recommends city upgrade to IBM Cognos Analytics 11, the latest version of Cognos, by purchasing Analytics Now services from Central Square, which includes installation, implementation, training, and the conversion of existing reports. Staff recommends Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to purchase IBM Cognos Analytics 11 software from Central Square Technologies, totaling $34,340.
See no questions from council. This is a public hearing, open to the public. Any questions or comments to the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faircloth? Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 8.
Staff recommends Mayor and Council approve the award of ITB 201929 to the lowest, most responsive bidder, Hooper Corporation, the amount of $432,500. This bid is for the final work necessary to place the second transformer recently installed at Renaissance Substation in service. The work includes providing concrete foundations for the metal structures needed, installing the buswork and miscellaneous hardware as shown in the engineering drawings, running all control cables from the new transformer, breakers, control house, wiring all equipment according to the engineer schematics, downloading the system protection settings to the new protection relays, and testing the relays and equipment to ensure they are all operating correctly.
See no questions or comments from the council. This is a public hearing, open to the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Faircloth? Yes. Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Maldonado? Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Tab 9.
Tab 9 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving and authorizing agreements with Garland DBS, Inc. for the repair of roofs on several city facilities which were damaged or destroyed by Hurricane Irma, providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
Due to Hurricane Irma, the roofs at both the YMCA located at Harris Field and the Seminole Theater need to be restored and/or replaced. The city's insurance and FEMA came out to reassess the damage and will reimburse the cost of the replacement and repairs of these roofs. Cost breakdown: YMCA roof, which includes the two main buildings and the gymnasium, $566,809. Seminole Theater roof, $231,624. Sealing the vertical wall at Seminole Theater, $33,890. Staff has determined that it be in the best interest of the city to purchase services from Garland DBS, Inc. under the U.S. Communities Contract, which is a governmental purchasing alliance serving all government agencies and provides nationally leveraged and competitively solicited purchasing contracts. Staff recommends Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with Garland DBS for the restoration and/or replacements of the roof, YMCA buildings, Harris Field, Seminole Theater, for a total of $832,323. And just because some may ask this question, the staff has done a tremendous job holding everybody accountable whenever we've had roofs. And as you know, we haven't come to you and asked you for any taxpayer money for this. And whenever there's a problem, if it's covered under insurance, if it's covered under warranty, if it's covered by FEMA, we push very hard to make sure that we don't have to come here and ask you for any money. So I thank the staff for their diligence. It takes some time, and people wonder, geez, what's going on? Well, what's going on is we fight every day until we get the result that we're looking for, and this is yet more good results on behalf from the staff.
Perfect. And so right now, the plan is that we're going to front these dollars, but we are getting them reimbursed from the insurance?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Seeing no additional questions or comments from council, this is a public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Maldonado. Councilwoman Bailey. Councilman Roth. Councilwoman Faircloth.
Yes.
Councilman Guzman. Vice Mayor Burgess. Mayor Shelley.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 10.
Tab 10 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, authorizing the city manager to accept a grant in the amount of $34,017 from the Florida Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs for the Seminole Theater, authorizing the city manager to execute the grant agreement, establishing a budget in the amount of $34,017 for the expenditure of grant funds, and providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
City of Homestead has been awarded a grant from the Florida Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs for the Seminole Theater. The grant award is $34,017 and requires a match of $34,017. The city will use the cost of the contract for Pinnacle Venue Services as the match. The grant is to offset the cost of the contracting services for the management company. Staff recommends Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to accept a grant in the amount of $34,017 from Florida Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs and to execute the agreement. And Dennis, thank you for your staff for uncovering every rock we can find to find money.
Seeing no questions or comments, this is a public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Faircloth. Yes. Councilman Roth. Councilman Guzman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey. Councilman Maldonado. Vice Mayor Burgess. Mayor Shelley.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 11.
Tab 11 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving and authorizing the purchase of mitigation credits for the parcel of land at Southwest 162nd Avenue in the amount of $189,085.62, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
20-plus years ago, city property located at Southwest 162nd Street, just north of Southwest 328th Street, was improved and graded to be used as a storage site for materials and shopping carts. Durham has notified the city that an after-the-fact permit is required to continue to use the property. As part of the permit requirements, the city needs to mitigate the property as required by U.S. Corps of Engineers, South Florida Water Management District, and Miami-Dade Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources. In lieu of mitigation on site, the permit process allows for the purchase of mitigation credits for the site at the Hole in the Donut Mitigation Bank to meet permit requirements. Staff has determined that it's in the city's best interest to purchase the credits to meet permit requirements and continue use of this vital property. The cost is $27,089.63 per acre for a total of $189,085.62. Staff recommends Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase mitigation credits from the National Park Foundation for $189,085.62 for the city's hurricane debris staging area at Southwest 162nd Avenue. The cost of the mitigation credits will be split between Solid Waste Division and the Electric Utilities Division. A couple other added notes to this is a legacy from 20 years ago, but also the staff feels reserving this property rather than mitigating it, and then you won't be able to use it again. The intent of this, what I'm told from when it was purchased in the 70s, was at some point, if the plant needs to be expanded, the station, that we'd have room to do that. And so if we don't buy the credits and we just mitigate the property and put it back so that it's unusable, then we'd have issues in the future using that for the future electric needs, and also mitigation of the land would not only put it back when we couldn't use it, but also would likely cost us more than the credits.
All right. And that was one of my questions was, what would be the use? Are we buying these credits only for its current function, or could we use it for expansion of the substation in the future or other city purposes? So once we pay these mitigation credits, that land is essentially free and clear for us to use what we need to do for it in the future without additional monies being paid. Is your understanding? Yeah, okay. Seeing no additional questions or comments from council, this is a public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth. Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Faircloth? Yes. Vice Mayor Burgess? Yes. Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 12.
This item is our first bit of evidence that life will be changing in the downtown due to the new complex that will be opening soon and the changes at Losner Park. Main Street is requesting the use of City Hall Plaza to hold its annual community-wide holiday event on December 7th from 5 to 9 p.m. Main Street is expecting about 1,000 participants. This family event will commence with the traditional tree lighting ceremony, followed by Santa's parade on Washington Avenue, and then the movie in the plaza. Food in trucks and live entertainment will be provided.
Now, is the plan that this will replace the Losner Park, I guess, while we're doing Losner Park? Is that the idea? Yvonne, or you want to come in from Main Street and kind of give us an idea of what the proposal is or what the plan is?
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Knowles.
It's on. Oh, no, it was on. Go ahead.
Executive Director. I didn't quite hear the question. I'm sorry.
Well, the question was, is the proposal then to hold the Christmas tree lighting here in the plaza versus in Losner Park like in years past, and then the parade will now be on Washington versus Chrome?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's a big thing for downtown because we're going to move, because we're losing Losner Park, and we're very excited about that. The concept of having it on Washington Avenue is a new concept, and the first time we'll be able to integrate the businesses on Washington Avenue into our event. So I think this is a big bonus for the downtown and also for these businesses. We would have the parade on Washington Avenue. We'd have the presentations, the festival, and the movie on the plaza.
And Mayor, I'd like to thank Main Street because they've kind of accepted things are going to be changing, and they adjusted to the new change. No complaining, no belly aching. They found a good plan, and they were proposing it, and we got a lot of new things that are going to be happening and big changes. So this is the first evidence of that, and we appreciate you being creative and flexible.
Thank you. And we're excited about the new park also.
And so for tonight, though, as a discussion item, what do you need from the council? Do you just need us saying it's okay, or is this what are we doing?
Well, typically when we use the city facility in a different way, we just want to make sure you're okay with it. And this is a big change of use, and just want to make sure you're okay.
All right, so you just need us to say we're okay with the concept of holding it, moving it from Losner Park, which is no longer accessible because it's going to be under construction, to here for this year and possibly going forward in the future.
Yes.
Any objections from my colleagues?
By the way, Mrs. Santa Claus is sitting in the audience and taking names. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tab 13. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I asked this to be put on. We're 2 years overdue. And as I look at our charter and people question us, we have not fulfilled what our charter says. So I've asked if perhaps if the will of the council is now to start the seat one. As we know, it's a long 6 to 8 month process. And my goal would be for this whoever has sat down at the charter review to be able to have things ready to go for the August election, and be able to piggyback on the election of the county commissioners and things like that on their election, which will happen in early August. And I say that because that would keep a large expense down for us, as we would be able to use a lot of the facilities that will be open for the county races. And I think it's a very important thing that takes time. I know that we did a charter review several years back that was rushed and really didn't effectively do anything for the city other than one question I think we had out there. We were able to get 3 questions, I think, out of a very short term, and that's nothing against you, Mayor. We put you on a very short time frame, and you know as well as I do, having sat on there, that it's a long, tedious process to go through and talk about, go out and educate the different residents that care to come and learn about it, and then get it back out there and revise it back and forth, maybe change it a little bit, go back and forth with the attorneys on the language that's written and all that. So I just think it's important. As I said, we're 2 years overdue. We haven't even followed our own charter, which is kind of a bad thing in my book. and I felt it needed to be brought forward. And I know it says here to be sat in December. Well, we have missed that target year after year. And I think it's, if we were to start now to seat one, it would give them plenty of time to work and fulfill the time requirements that are here, and we would be able to get it onto the August ballot. If we continue to wait, we're going to do as we usually do, rush the job, and for lack of a better term, half-ass it, and end up with a review that is shortcutted because we haven't given it a full length and full time to go through the process. And I'll open it up and leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know the last time we did this, I think we had 4 specific questions the council had requested be looked at and reviewed by that particular committee. Even with only 4 questions, it took us, I want to say, 2 months, or we tried to do it in 2 months, which required that committee to meet at least once a week for a 2-month period in order to debate, discuss, and make recommendations that would then come before us as a body to then determine whether or not we wanted to submit that out to the public for a vote. And it was a very quick turnaround process. I do think that if you're going to review under the charter, which requires the entire review of the entire charter from the index all the way to the end, that's going to take quite a bit of time because I know how long it took just to do 4 questions. So I do think it is going to be a lengthy process. I do think if we do this, it should be done right, and so it should be given the amount of time necessary, because I envisioned last time, and unfortunately we ran out of time, was having the committee to actually put together their recommendations, then have it go out and maybe vetted in some workshops in all the different communities, then maybe come back and have the committee rework anything that the community had given them feedback on before it came to us, and then ultimately, we make decisions on what goes out to a vote or not goes out to a vote. So I do agree it's a long and lengthy process. I think it's a question for the council. Ultimately, if the council would like for me to convene the committee, then under the charter, I can convene 5 people to sit on that committee. I just want to make sure, if that's the will of the council as a body, I'll follow through. But I do want to get your guys' feedback. Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question about the whole process. Who initiates any charter review and who initiates any changes to the charter? Is that something that we would do as a body up here, or would that be the committee that has studied our charter and looks for imperfections that need to be corrected?
I can let the attorney answer it, but there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can either, by charter, we have to do it every 5th year, beginning in 2007. Every 5th year, we should have had a mandatory charter review that would ultimately look at the entire charter and see if any changes need to be made. Or, as we have done since 2007, there's been some of these ad hoc committees that have been assembled to look at either specific questions or for specific purposes that the council initiated on their own. And so that can be done at any given time. The council could initiate, ultimately the mayor would then appoint those persons to be on that committee. So it's kind of either or, but this does require a mandatory charter review of some type every 5th year. And the attorney can fill in on any specifics that I missed on.
No, I think you've explained the process pretty succinctly. If the way it works once it's in committee is the committee will generally review. The last one was done just specific questions regarding candidate qualifications and things of that nature. And there was input from the committee members. They requested some language to implement whatever it is their initial suggestion was, which was provided for their committee's review. And then that process went back and forth for each of the issues until the committee members voted and were satisfied. At that point, their recommendations were presented to council, and ultimately the council approves the ballot questions that will be placed on the ballot for the amendment of the charter.
And also, there's no requirement except for this charter requirement. There's no necessarily requirement that it goes to a committee. The council could, spontaneously at any given time say that we want to have this question answered by the public, and as a body decide that we want to put that out, regardless of whether we had a committee or not. The committee just becomes a more vetted process and public process.
So if there's a mandatory review every 5 years, is what you're saying. We have to do it every 5 years. Now, we did this, was it 2.5, 3 years ago?
We did not do a review.
Not a review, but we modified the charter to allow. Actually, your case was to be able to step into the mayor's spot and then step back down to your seat. So there was a definite need for that particular review. So that's why I was curious. And if somebody from the public has reviewed the charter, they can also make some suggestions that might make the charter a little bit more efficient. So that's where I was kind of wondering, who actually puts to task the questions or the different requirements of the charter, and that could come from us as well. As we review the charter as well, we can say, well, this doesn't work properly, let's put it to the voters and see if we can change this and modify it. Okay, thank you for clarity, thank you.
I think it was Councilman Guzman was next. Councilman Guzman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we were to do a full review of the charter, how many months or years would that take? Like a good estimate?
I mean,
Months or?
it could be done in a week, or it could be, it depends on how you want to do the process and how long you want it to take. It's indeterminate, but it would take a while. Like we did 4 questions. It took us 2 months, and we barely got through 4 questions. You're talking about every single section of the charter, so I would say you're talking probably at minimum 3 months, more than likely 6 months. Yeah.
So is the wish of Vice Mayor Burgess to review the entire charter?
Go ahead. Vice Mayor Burgess, respond.
Well, we are required by charter to look at it, and we haven't. What we have done is, as the mayor stated, we've had ad hoc charter review where some questions were put out there, and one was to clean up some language so that when we had like we had this year where the mayor stepped down, the council person who got moved over didn't have to resign. They were able to go over there, and then they could revert back if they so choose. And that came about from when I was the vice mayor and we had a mayor removed, and then I would have had to resign my seat at that time and take over the mayorship. But I still had remaining 2 years, and so I didn't feel it was do that. So that was one of the things that led up to us having that ad hoc thing. And one of the other questions we put out there was doing away with the vice mayorship and letting the people up here appoint, and then, and that lost by, I think, 11 or 12 votes. It kept fluctuating back and forth. It was very, very close. One day it was winning, one day it was losing. And the recount, it ended up losing by 11 votes citywide, I think it was. But, those were some of the things. And I know one other question that I had submitted to the committee back then, and I don't think it made it forward, was doing going to single-member districts to help, because the city, since I sat up here, we've doubled in size, and this is a part-time job for us, even though it's a full-time job, and the amount of time that you have to spend campaigning and the amount of money that you have to spend campaigning is cumbersome on our lives and our ability to do both our jobs, whether it's sitting up here or what we do for a profession. And it also inhibits people from being able to run, because you have to have a lot of money to get your message out there and go citywide. Whereas if you had a single-member district, you'd be able to do it at a reasonable rate, and people would be able to do that. And then the other, there's been other people that have been elected that don't even win their own area and stuff like that. So I thought, that was something we put out there, but the committee didn't feel like it was the right time to do it back then. So those were the type of things that were out there on the last ad hoc committee, and 4 out of, I think there were 8 questions that were thrown to you guys originally or something, and you guys came back with 4, or 8 suggestions, I should say, not questions. And you guys came back with 4 of them revised that we took to the ballot, and I think one of them or 2 of them passed. I can't remember the number. Right, the mayor's term. But there are a lot of things in the charter that prohibit us, or may be of old history and aren't, don't keep up with the modern times that we have grown to here in the city. So I think it is time for a full review. And why that is a 6-month process, that's why I said if we were to start now, it'll save us money in the end, because next August we could maybe attach it to it would be done, would be vetted through the community with anybody that wants to put their input in. The council should have had enough time to look at it, and it will be able to piggyback on the election of the county election. So that's why I thought, getting it started, because it will take time. It would take probably a month or 2 to get 5 people chosen, get them set, get them with the attorneys, make sure everybody understands the process and that's going to take a month or 2 to get all that done, and then they can start the process. So it's not, it's not a quick process. It's a lengthy process, and whoever gets chosen is going to have to make a large commitment, but it's time it's done. And that's why I brought it up, because it gives us plenty of time, and it's not a rush process, and I think it's overdue. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Since that's already in the code, I think it is imperative that we do a full review, and I think we ought to put a deadline on it, because when there are deadlines, things get done. When we don't have deadlines, things kind of carry on and just kind of float around and nothing happens. So in my opinion, I think we should do a full review, and I think it should have a deadline, a specific deadline. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And ultimately, the deadline, if the council determines that August is the election that they want it to piggyback on, there'll be a time period in which those ballot questions have to be submitted to make the ballot, and so you'll work your way backwards from there. So if we determine that's what we're going to do, there will be a hard and fast deadline when the committee and ultimately the council has to weigh in on and submit those. Otherwise, we'll miss the ability to get on that particular election cycle. And I do think it makes sense to do it at a local election when you have a local county commission race on there, because you have those people who are most engaged in the local politics and local understanding of the local issues versus, say, during a time period when you have people who are really focused on national issues. So that would be a good time. But it's ultimately the council's decision on what they want to do. Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. To staff, and I'm going to assume this is to the clerk, are we for sure allowed to get onto the ballot in August of 2020?
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
But the questions have to be submitted 60 days prior to the election, and we have to get permission from the supervisor of elections.
And that could be done either in August or in the November election? Is it the primary or the general? So I guess the question is, are you asking for August, or can we have a choice of the November election, the general election?
I don't believe they have a general. They do all
For
their elections
2020?
in August. All their county elections are in August, unless there's a runoff, and then it's done, 30 days after or something.
So not even August. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? The only thing I would raise of starting it right away, we do have our own elections coming up here in November, so that will limit the pool of leaders or chairmen of the particular committee, because I would not want to assign or appoint somebody to oversee it with a risk that that person could no longer be sitting there after November. So it does cause a little bit of problem as far as, starting it now, but at the same time, I mean, we can work through those issues. So it's ultimately, we just need direction from the council. If you would like me to convene one, I'll start filtering names or having you guys submit names, and then I'll pick 5, and we can come back and select the committee and then ultimately get them seated. That's fine by me. I don't see, how come we're not getting flashes anymore on the mics?
I was first anyway.
Yeah, because I'm no longer getting the indication of who's before who. So Councilman Guzman, and then I'll go Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But off the top of your head, do you remember what the 4 questions were when on the last charter review?
Not 100%. I mean, staff could pull it, but Vice Mayor was correct. You did have what happens, the succession of Vice Mayor to Mayor and back again. You had the question of single-member districts, but that didn't ultimately make the ballot. That was just something that was submitted for review. There was some discussion, the Vice Mayor selection versus election of the Vice Mayor and the timing of that. There was some other cleanup issue. Well, yeah, I think we also had some discussion about whether the mayor's term should be 2 years or 4 years, and ultimately the committee decided not to send that out to us as a recommendation to leave the mayor's as 2 years versus a 4-year term. So I think you're correct. Those were the main issues.
So if we wanted to change the charter, the city code, that we think is outdated, that has nothing to do with what we are discussing now. This is more towards elections and
It's the core, it's the makeup of how the body or the government works itself and interacts.
Okay, so if we wanted as a body up here to change code, we don't necessarily have to go to the public. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
No, Mayor, and I understand that November is a very important time for us, but if we push this back and we don't start selecting people as our 5 citizens that would come forward, I mean, we know that's going to take a month or 2 to get 5 committed people. So then we're almost there. If we don't start that process till November or December, then we're into January because nobody's around in December to do anything with the holidays and everything. So you're really getting into January or February, and then we're into the same process that I'm trying to not do, and that's a rush job and not taking a thorough vetting and look at everything that needs to be done. And that's what I'm trying to establish that I don't want to see happen again.
No, I concur with you, because that's the thing we've always run into, is we always end up seeming to have this discussion before and then during an election year, and we always wait till after the election, and you're right, we'll have an election in November, everyone will get seated in November, by the time they submit names, it'll be December, and likely, which I think happened last time, the committee didn't start until January or February, and now you've got 2 months to make your ballot initiative for an August vote. So, which is, I think, why the charter puts us on an odd year and then starts it over so that by the time we complete the process, he could go on a November even year, which is not a general election.
If I could, I'd like to make a motion and see if we can get some movement here. Make a motion that we start the process of bringing in the citizens, and then a chairman, if so desired, after the November election could be chosen, or somebody not a chairman, because I think the chairman should come from them, but the liaison type person to the committee would be chosen immediately after the election.
Second. Motion and a second. Do we need a roll call vote, attorney, or can I do this by all in favor? All in favor. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes carry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
So then the next process would be, I would say, submit names, because the charter requires me to appoint 5 people. So we're not going to do the typical where each person gets to appoint their own elected party. I'm going to have to kind of sort through them. So if you guys could submit names to me as soon as possible, then I'll try to then bring back 5 people for recommendation and your ratification or redirection to somebody else. So, okay. Tab 14. It's also a vice mayor discussion item. Vice Mayor.
I'm just trying to clean up some things before you guys throw me out of here in a couple months. I went to Development Services, and and something that reminded me of this was when I looked at and reviewed the 7-Eleven plans the other day. They brought us a lower-end building, is what I would call it, out of their arsenal of buildings that they could have brought us. And then I looked back and looked, and I remembered the Popeyes moved from a block building over there with some windows to probably one of the nicest Popeyes chickens you'll find in the entire country. And that was because we held them to some standards. And our Development Services doesn't really allow, our development guidelines don't allow us to hold people like that to when they're bringing the plans in. And I was talking with Development Services, and we thought that maybe this might be a good time to start asking people to step up. And this is me speaking. As we develop our downtown, I'd much rather have buildings that are pleasing and looking at if we're going to get other restaurants and stuff like that down there and get their A game and not their C or D game. And and it was brought to us again last week. And I'm not talking about just downtown. I'm talking about anywhere, east side, west side, north side, south side. When the 7-Eleven came, they brought us a cinder block building with their colors on it and thought that that was what we needed. I know that in my discussions, I have sent them back to the drawing board, and they've told me they're going to come back with a better product. And I think that if we gave our Development Services team the ability to tell people and hold them to certain guidelines, because there are guidelines that are written, and Mr. Cordino could share on those, I think it would help the city and help the process altogether. So that's why I brought this forward. Thank you.
Mr. Cordino, is there other cities that have similar types of design guidelines, or that because I understand what Vice Mayor is trying to accomplish, and I concur that, I think that we should demand quality products. If they're going to come to the city, it should be something that we're proud of and they're proud of. So, but as far as implementing or redesigning our code or creating these design guidelines, is there a model or a template that already exists out there, or what guidance can you give there on his request?
Sir, many cities have design guidelines, architectural guidelines, architectural styles, architectural review boards, those types of things. We can pull from a number of resources. It depends on the level of intensity you want to go through and looking at this in the level of detail that you want to go through. Some, like Miami Beach or Coral Gables, may be quite significant. Others are a lot lighter, and we can certainly tailor something that that you can choose from and pick the
So, but it-
appropriate level of regulation.
So it's not as simple as just kind of pulling, there's not an existing one-size-fits-all. So what you're saying is that this is to even create the design guidelines is going to be a lengthy process on our part to figure out how much micromanaging do we want to do? Is it about the, like you said, architecture? Is it, I know we already have a color swath of certain colors, and then also us having to debate or figure out the balance between the debate of the discussion of how do we make it more easy for businesses to develop here, but at the same time making sure that it's not so easy that the quality of the product ends up being less than what they would have built in someplace else, which I think is the Vice Mayor's concern. And there's a balancing act there to make sure that as we add a review board or something else, that we don't make the process go from 120 days to, almost a whole year to get through the design process. And so that's why I was asking, what have other cities done, I guess, taking into account what our goals might be, and there'll be more discussion to be had on that. I don't know if this is something that we can make a decision on tonight, or if this is something that, would need a further workshop where you can bring some options to us so that we can kind of start picking and say, we like that, we don't like this.
We certainly, what my suggestion is to kind of get you the lay of the land and the various options that are out there, and we can do a review of other cities in this county or other cities anywhere you like, and kind of look at what they do and kind of just measure their processes and show you what they have, and then almost can start to tailor a set of or a set of design guidelines or whatever type of regulations that you want to put in place from that. But I think it would be appropriate first to kind of look at the entire palette of what people do out there, because it is regulation to a certain extent. In some places it can be quite cumbersome, and in the hardest places, like Miami Beach, it adds multiple meetings. It's heavy regulation in some places.
Okay. And so I think what the Vice Mayor said while you were starting to speak was that I guess the intention was more or less just to get to see, is there an appetite for the council to pursue maybe stepping it up and having a little bit higher design standards, and then kind of use that as the basis to go forward for future discussions? Is that kind of the intent of tonight? City Manager, you have some comments on it?
I just wanted to make sure, I'd say I have two polar examples. The city of White Plains, they had a design review board that included people from the city that were architects and engineers that would pick over every project, and anybody that tried to do business in the city would complain how cumbersome and terrible it was to go through. And then we have the city of Homestead, on the other hand, where there's very little regulation on aesthetics. You mentioned the Popeyes. I just want to mention to you that part of the reason that it looks so nice is because you already had a master plan involved that the staff was holding the developer accountable for, and that became the poster child for the complaining of it's so hard to get business done in the city of Homestead. So as you think through these issues, recognize the more regulation you put on this, the more complaining you'll get, the nicer your buildings will be, and it really ratchets up. The closer you get to the White Plains model, the nicer the buildings get, and the higher the pitch comes from people who are trying to do business in the city. So you'll have plenty of to talk about when you roll up your sleeves and deal with this, but I want you to know that the staff took a tremendous amount of abuse on that Popeyes project, and now you see what it looks like when you hold somebody to a standard, and you see what it feels like when the people complain, and it was month after month after month after month, and I still hear the complaining, oh, the Popeyes, it's so easy to do business in Florida City. And so you look at the Popeyes, and then you look at things in Florida City, and you can see the difference when you have a plan in place, and you can also feel the difference with the complaining. So that's really kind of the whole stew involved with what this issue is, and we're happy to walk with you through the journey, and whatever you decide, you decide.
Councilwoman Fairclough.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to bring up. I don't want anyone to walk away from here and the headline, oh, they're trying to make it hard to do business in the city. Has nothing to do with that, but everything to do with setting a standard and making sure that any application that comes before us is a great product, because our residents deserve it, and it is incumbent upon us to advocate for that. The 7-Eleven, what they brought was unacceptable, unacceptable. We have to hold them to a standard. So it's not that we're making it difficult to do business in the city.
but everything to do with setting the standard.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
And to go back to the manager's point, the Popeyes, when you speak with that gentleman now, that's one of the proudest Popeyes he has, and he's got well over 150 stores.
I still hear the complaint.
Well, yeah, but some of the complaints came because there were two entities involved. We had the state telling them to do a certain thing on the highway, and we had the city telling them to do a certain other thing, and it cost them money coming and going because there were two entities. So we need to make sure that all the entities are one thing. But we also have to realize that we've invested over $100 million downtown, or are going to by the time we're done. And those people that have made those investments deserve the best that they can get. And if the standards are known when people come here and they're set and they know them when they're handed the first book, that's what they've got to go by. There's no confusion. Right now, there's confusion because there's no plan in place. So they don't know which side of the road to go to. Over here and bring something that's horrible, or bring something that's great. And of course, they're going to go over here at the least expense to them that looks the worst for the community. So all I'm asking tonight is, and I wasn't expecting a vote or anything on this tonight, but perhaps if Mr. Cordino, who does have some standards already that he can go pull up easy, if they could bring some standards back to this board and we take a look at them and at least discuss it, because I think it is important as we see, and if we're going to make this downtown go and make it a beautiful thing, we've got to start holding people that are coming down there accountable for what they're putting out there as a product. And that's where I'm at tonight, just trying to, and I think some of the confusion, like I said, would be gone if they're given the booklet up front and they know what the expectations are from day one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now that we're on this topic, I'm one that thinks that downtown is going to be extraordinary, and I can't wait for it to open. But sometimes I get complaints from constituents that say, hey, I'd like to open a restaurant in the downtown area, but I get over to the city development services and I get a lot of pushback, specifically when it has to do with a liquor license. So I'd like staff to tell me today, if somebody applies for a liquor license, are they having to pay up front $10,000 even before that comes to council? And if it gets denied at council, do they get their funds back?
So the liquor, they get their liquor license from the state, but they go through they have to come to the through the public hearing process, so they pay a public hearing fee, and they pay whatever cost recovery for the reviews that every other applicant that comes before you has to pay. So it's the same thing as any applicant that comes before the city council would have to pay.
And what is that fee? Do we know what that fee is?
The fee is likely, the cost recovery for these applications varies. It's an upfront fee that they pay. It can be, and it's refundable if the work isn't used, and each of the applications tend to be different. For instance, a comp plan change and a site plan and those types of things are much more extensive than, say, the review of a liquor license. And I believe the public hearing fee is $1,000? We're talking the fee is probably $1,000, $1,500 for the application.
So the $10,000 fee that I am being told they are paying for opening or trying to get approval for a liquor license in the entertainment district, that is not the case. Is that?
No, there's the application fee, which is we're looking it up right now, $1,000, $1,500, and then whatever the cost recovery, the review fees are mixed in. Those can be anywhere between $3,000 and $8,000, and they vary because they are basically hourly fees that go for the reviews and all the different types of things that we would have to do for review. Those types of reviews are typically less extensive than you would, for a liquor license, than you would get for some of the more significant reviews like site plans or comprehensive plan changes, because these don't necessarily require huge production of documents. On the other side of the issue are the fees that the applicants have to pay their own lawyers, architects, consultants, which are in addition to any city's fees, and those are likely, in most cases, much more expensive than the city fees because that involves the putting together of the application packages.
Joe, we could probably provide the checklist of what's involved with a liquor license so you can see, and if there's anything there you want to look at streamlining. Some things would be required by the state law.
Yeah, the state necessarily.
Like for example, if you have to petition, you have to send out flyers and do a survey. Last I heard was you had to do a survey of the churches in the area and all. Is that state or is that the city?
That's our city rule.
Right, so there's certain things in there that if you wanted to look at to see if some of the things may be outdated and you might be able to, like putting a flyer on everybody's door and surveying the churches and a bunch of other things that are in there, you might want to look at it, but we could provide you with the checklist of requirements and then you could figure out if you want to do something to, those are all your laws and you can change them, at least the ones that are within your jurisdiction.
So what happens is that the certificate of use for the alcohol is generally $750 fee. Then we have cost recovery. Again, it's not a significant application, but what we'll do is for each application, we essentially have a pre-application meeting with the applicant. We provide them a checklist of everything they need to produce, and then through the code, we don't make the stuff up, it's in the code says do these things, then we provide them the application fee and a guesstimate on the cost recovery. So they walk out the door with the same checklist we give everyone for each of the individual applications. So I'll provide that to you all, and then you can review it, and we can.
At face value, it looks very cumbersome and archaic, but you could look at it and think it's not enough. So I think it'd be good for you to have the checklist and figure out if there's something there you want to look at.
And I bring this up because the liquor licenses are regulated by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, so they've got a set of laws that they've got to abide by with that body, and then they also have a set of laws they got to abide by with us, and sometimes it could just deter people because there's too many obstacles, and we get those complaints a lot. So if we're trying to establish a friendly environment for an entertainment district in downtown, because I really want that to succeed, I really don't want to shy anyone away like Councilwoman Fairclough said. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And so I think getting back to the question by Council or Vice Mayor Burgess as far as his direction, I know that, so there's a couple things. I guess we can schedule this for a full-out workshop. We can have further discussions at the COW. I know for some of these issues, we've had a standing discussion item. So every COW, we would have maybe a different section or a different part discussion, because if this is something that the council thinks is imperative that we go ahead and establish rather than trying to do it all at once in one sitting, does it make sense to kind of split this up into different parts and pieces and make those decisions as we go along at each particular COW? We know we're going to have some discussion. That's kind of up for Vice Mayor. Any recommendations or any requests?
Well, my recommendation would be perhaps Mr. Cordino could get something together, email it to each one of us and to staff so that, the manager and his people can look at it too prior to coming out. And then we could all look at it and see if there's an appetite for what maybe he could give us an A, B, C model, A and B model, maybe what Miami Beach does, the extremities that they go to versus somebody else who he thinks is a little more lenient but still does a good job with what their code says, so something to that effect. And, give them to us. And then at the next COW, we can see, or at the next council meeting, a couple of weeks, I don't know, or 2 meetings out, however long it would take them to get stuff together. I know they're busy down there also. It would give us time to read it, look at it, and see if there's any appetite to move it forward or to table it and, let it go on. So that would be what I would, my suggestion.
City Manager or Joe,
That I think we can do, but also did you want to take on liquor license as well? Because that shouldn't be a very complicated thing to put together. You will have more of this, so if you're thinking that there might be some appetite for more leniency, probably now would be the time to do it, because you're going to start seeing new business coming in, and they're all going to have the same problem. Right now, showbiz is going through it right now, and it's very uncomfortable for them because it's harder for them than I think in some other places. And so everybody had envisioned that there would be alcohol there, but they still have to go through the process like everyone else. And they're in the process of doing a church survey and flyering the neighborhood, and there's a bunch of other things. And you may like that or you might not like that. And if staff is willing to do it and you're interested in it, we can have it for you as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay?
Okay. You have the direction you need?
Yes.
You feel comfortable enough?
I do.
Councilman Ross, sorry.
Yeah, and he brings up a very good point, and I've heard this repeated many times, that the applicant will go and submit plans, permits, ask permission to do certain things within the city, and they get down the journey, and they end up with another snag. And this is a perfect example where Showbiz, in the plans, there was a bar, but there's no liquor license. And somebody should have had the foresight to see that you're putting a bar in, you got to go through the process.
Yeah,
So
the issue with that is it has to be done 6 months before opening, so normally the process for approval is way before that, so
We're
that's.
cognizant of all the requirements to get their building approved.
But the 6-month requirement is, why is it has to be done, it can't be done 2 years? Why can't it be done at the time of site plan? Because staff said it has to be done 6 months before, within the 6-month period of opening.
That's simply what the code says, so we're adhering
There you go.
to the code.
So that's something where you might be able to change that as well and have it all done during the site plan review process. That would be a way for them to not feel, because they go through the site plan, they think they're all done, even though they remember there's still some outstanding items, they get focused on building and all the other things, and then they, 6 months before opening, they have to survey churches and flyer the neighborhood and a lot of other things that becomes very upsetting to them.
Sure, and that's, to the point, some of the places that do business with us already, like Racetrack and 7-Eleven, they simultaneously do all of that. So we have to speak about that. Just like tonight, we did that for the other business that was looking for to sell beer and wine and alcohol. So just so that becomes a part of the process, and that we don't look like we stop them from doing something, prior to them opening, so that they have a plan of action when they start the process with us. So
The good news is, most of the time, it's the staff that looks like the bad guys instead of you all, even though it's the laws that were passed on this dais, but we're okay. That's why we get paid.
right, and if we're made aware of those things, we can also address them. So when problems come up, if we're notified that we need to take some action to make it simpler or more flexible, then we need to be able to do that as well. So, thank you, Mayor.
No problem. Thank you. So you guys have direction, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Tab 15.
Mayor, this is just a notification. It's an emergency purchase notification to council by staff as required by the City of Homestead Code of Ordinances, Section 2413, Emergency Purchases. On August 9, 2019, City Manager's Office was notified that a 110-foot portion of the water main located at Southwest 312th Street and Southwest 147 Avenue had been damaged the night before by Mastech while performing a directional bore in the area. City crews were able to bypass the break in the line and have temporarily restored water service to the area until the water main can be repaired. Due to the emergency nature, the City Manager's Office under Section 2413 authorized the emergency repairs to the broken water main and issued a purchase order to Downright Engineering Corp. for $43,950. And we were also told you that we'd be sending you emails. We think the email went out and you all got notice, so I think that's working okay, and that's our notice.
Perfect. Quick question on this item, though, since it looks like it was caused by a third party. Are they going to reimburse us? So we've worked with them on how we're going to get recouped for these expenses?
Mayor, the first thing I would like to say is, kudos to my employees because they work 24/7, 24 hours that night. They keep the water going. The crews did a great job. I just want to, bring that up. We are going after Mastech now. The subcontractor's kind of like trying to get away from us, so our avenue is probably shut down Mastech with any work they have in City District right now until they pay the fee.
Okay.
But it does look, it's their fault. We had marks there, so we just we're going after them for the full cost.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Tab 16.
Same emergency purchases notification, same section, August 7, 2019. The City Manager's Office was notified that the only vacuum truck in the wastewater division had broken down and it was disrupting normal operations. to the emergency nature and the fact that the Southern Sewer Equipment Sales is the only authorized vendor that can do the work. City Manager's Office authorized emergency repairs to the truck and issued a purchase order to Southern Sewer Equipment Sales for $29,019. And this is an estimated amount that may vary as the repair is completed.
That concludes the business section. Now open public comment. I'll now open the floor for public comments. Come to the podium once your name is called. The first public comment I have is Kim Hill.
How you all doing? Good afternoon, Mr. Gresser, Brother Maldonado. They tell me that one of the biggest accomplishments of our oppressor is to be able to make us an accomplice of our oppression. And I looked last week at the embarrassment of the city, seeing this officer beating another minority down, slamming his face into a wall. And I came up here consistently asking about body cameras to be able to get rid of these strong lawsuits that we consistently lose money in. Now, Mr. Maldonado, you are Hispanic. There have been several Hispanics being beat down by our police, beat down, and a lot of has went unrecognized, but yet you still refuse to offer the Hispanic community a body camera. Miss Bailey, Miss Fairclough, you all are women. This man slapped a black woman, handcuffed, but yet at the same time, you're not looking over at your city manager saying, give us a body camera. Help protect. Let's bring some transparency down here. You know, one lady was pulled over by Homestead policemen, was asked to see her bra, her breast, and all of this, but yet you still won't sit up and allow a body camera to come. Alexandra Davis, beautiful black sister over here in Miramar, she stepped up on her campaign and she said, I'm going to provide body cameras to my citizens because there's been a rampant, assault on African Americans, and we need to be able to provide some justice. An accomplice to our oppressors. We look for moral character, Mr. Raw. It takes some intestinal fortitude to be able to go against the grain and do what's right. This was an embarrassment to our city, and I ask of you all to be able to do better. We could talk about a zillion other things, but yet we can't bring a body camera for a mere discussion. Mere discussion, Mr. Guzman? Just a mere discussion. But now the demand is on. We're not going to back down, and we're going to speak. We're going to speak in the polls. If you look around, the issue is still body cameras, but yet you want to ignore it. We would rather pay law firms $2.7 million per year than to sit up for $1,000 per body camera. Why would we do that, Mr. Gresser? What are we ducking? What are we hiding? The truth keeps coming out. There's a small Ku Klux Klan within our police department. There are great officers there, but it's been a... Thank you.
Next public comment is Dr. James Arab McDonough.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Dr. James Eric McDonough. I live at 32320 Southwest 199th Avenue, Homestead, Florida. Haven't been here in a while, so I'd like to take an opportunity to congratulate Mr. Shelley on becoming mayor. And I'd also like to congratulate Councilman Guzman on your appointment. The citizens really appreciate both of you stepping up to serve the community, and for that, we'd like to thank you. Now for the reason I'm here tonight. We've witnessed repeatedly as city officials speak glowingly of how this chamber glorifies democracy. Specifically, we've seen Manager Gretzis comment at the coffered ceiling and glass walls that they're not here because we like fine things, but because this council glorifies democracy. So this got me to thinking. And to this extent, we at True Homestead are excited to offer the city of Homestead an opportunity to showcase not only this beautiful council chambers, but also to demonstrate to the residents just how far this great city is willing to go to glorify democracy. True Homestead will be hosting debates for the candidates for the various district and mayoral races in the upcoming election, with questions to be submitted by the voters. I can think of no better venue for such debates than here in these beautiful chambers of the people, where we can glorify democracy together. There are other venues available for sure, but again, I can think of no better venue, and it's a win-win for the city. Several campaigns have already reached out to express their interest and desire to participate in the debates we will be hosting, and we will be reaching out to the remaining campaigns to inform them of the planned debates. But I wanted to take the opportunity to formally announce here to you this evening. Your time in considering my proposal is appreciated, and I pray that you would partner with me in helping to expose the voters to the exciting candidates running for office and doing this together that we can glorify democracy. Thank you, good night, and God bless. Since I have a little bit of time left, I also would like to publicly announce that any of the candidates that are running for office are invited to submit a picture of themselves with a letter to True Homestead explaining why True Homestead readers should vote for them. These letters and pictures will be published without modification or edit. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Next is Willie Wumple.
Mr. Mayor, council, citizens, city employees. As I mentioned a couple of months ago, I am not pleased with the aesthetics of the city, and especially in the areas around the city motor pool. The median on US 1, Harris Field, Southeast 8th Street, 167th Avenue, where tree stumps have remained for two years after the hurricane, along 164th Avenue, where weeds have now overgrown the new sidewalk. This truly creates a hazard which the city is liable. When a matter is brought to the attention of the council and management, it is expected that the issue would be resolved in a timely manner. However, I have been left with the conclusion that those responsible do not care. I come to that conclusion because they were informed of these eyesores. Someone is being paid, Mr. Mayor, to take care of the property, more than likely a contractor. They're not doing their job. If they're not doing their job, they should not be paid, in my opinion. It is also the job of a city employee to oversee that they are doing their job. If they are not doing their job, then maybe they shouldn't be paid either. We all have jobs, and we are supposed to do those jobs on behalf of the people of the city of Homestead who pays the salaries. Another waste is the decision to spend, Mr. Mayor, $325,000 on a system to monitor traffic flow. Money that was given to the county in the form of taxes. It was returned to the city and then returned to the county to spend, in hopes of having the county to recalculate the timers in order to move traffic during peak hours. Is there a need for a study? As residents know, between 7:30 a.m. and 9 a.m., traffic is backed up. Then again, around 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., traffic is backed up again. I don't think it should take a camera to tell us this. There used to be a counter placed in the road to monitor the flow of traffic. Now we have gotten fancy, Mr. Mayor, and don't want to use common sense in solving problems. The $325,000 could have been put to better use. The money could have outfitted the city police officers with body cameras, or the money could have been provided greater compensation for city employees, or it could have been returned to the taxpayers. Mr. Mayor, we're not getting a return on our investment as taxpayers. Thank you.
You provide a list of those items you read out as far as the aesthetics. Can you provide that to either Dennis or to the city clerk so that we can make sure? I know that we all try to write down some of those, but you went too fast. I couldn't keep up. So thank you. Last is Brandy Ramirez.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Brandy Ramirez, address 2231 Southeast First Street, Homestead. I just wanted to come and thank the Mayor and Council for your hard work, what you guys do daily, and also to the city employees. I know a lot of comments and things that are brought up. I think also as well as citizens and City of Homestead residents, we should also contact the city employees and give them information that maybe we want to see happen. I believe the city employees are doing a great job. They're trying really hard, but as residents, we should also inform them. I wanted to congratulate you, CEO of Farm Share, and I just want to thank Mayor and Council for your continued support on sharing the Farm Share flyers. The need is real. There's a lot of people out there needing this food. It's 350 families that we're feeding. So I just wanted to thank you guys for getting that word out there. I wanted to say a special thank you to Julio Guzman for stepping in the position and doing a great job. Patricia Fairclough, thank you for always putting education first in the city. You've been doing a wonderful job for years. And also to Larry Roth, thank you for your continued support with donating book bags to the farm worker community. I was very happy to have all your support, Jennifer, Elvis, everybody, Shelley, and Burgess. Burgess, I'm gonna miss you. I look forward to seeing you in the future, but I wanna thank you for the items that you brought today are some items that are needed to be out there. You've done a wonderful job. And City Manager, thank you. I know your job's not easy. You have a wonderful staff. I appreciate you giving thanks to your staff as well for doing that. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time.
That was the last comment card, so I will now close the public hearing. Next is business from the city manager.
Before I do the business, I just wanted to respond to two things because I think it's everybody has a right to express their opinion on anything that you vote on. If they don't agree with it, that's their right. One thing, there was a little confusion or maybe a misinterpretation on what you approved with the traffic equipment. And basically, the equipment that you authorized the expenditure for was not just simply to monitor traffic, but rather they're what are called smart lights. And what they do with the camera technology is that in real time, they look at the traffic flow and they adjust the timing of the lights in an immediate fashion, as opposed to the current system where you have people at the county command center miles and miles away and maybe once or twice a year manually adjust them. And so these lights are not just monitoring. What they're trying to do is really maximize the efficiency of the intersections so that people that are waiting for the light to turn green and there's no traffic coming in the other direction, that we can shrink that amount of time to try to maximize the efficiency of the intersections. And that was utilizing some of the transportation dollars. And what we're trying to do also is typically the city doesn't have any control over that, and the county was able to allow us this pilot program even though the city's not responsible for any of the traffic lights or the traffic system. But we're doing this pilot program in an attempt to try to at least help the county along, because this is a function that they're responsible for. But I know you're not happy with what's currently going on, and we're hoping that this new equipment and this joint cooperation between the two governments will make things a little better. So not monitoring, but actually controlling the timing of the system. And I did want to mention, since there was some criticism of the police over the arrest that was made, I want to use this as an opportunity to congratulate the police department and praise them, because this is a great example of policing within their own department. And this incident came to their attention, and other departments may not have pursued it. This department pursued it and had a partnership with the state attorney's office to hold this officer accountable for what happened. And Colonel, thank you to you and your command staff and the chief, of course. The system worked, and it's unfortunate that it happened, and because there was a victim involved, the police wanted to bring justice and hold that person accountable for what he had done to the victim. So, Colonel, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. Some departments would have looked the other way. Speaking of, there's a couple of things on my report tonight, because I like once in a while to bring some good and surprise news Do we have the door open? Are we ready? Okay, here we go, a little drama for tonight. What you're about to witness now are 6 Telly Awards, and I brought them out tonight so that you can see them for yourself. And this is as much, too bad Zach is not here, Josh is in the back, but these awards are just as much yours, Mayor and Council, as they are the staff who did the hard work to achieve them. These here are Telly Awards. And why they're significant is they're beautiful, number one, but they're beautiful because this is very difficult to get. The Telly Award honors video production. Anything that's non-air broadcast, people submit to the Telly Award people, which have been around for 40 years. This is actually the 40th year that they've done the Telly Awards. This year, the Telly Awards received 18,000 submissions. 18,000. We got 6 of these babies, 6 of them. And the reason we got them is because we met with you all many years ago and you said you wanted to do something unique and different, and really focused on government transparency, getting our message out there, letting people know what this government does, and figuring out creative ways to do it. And so these awards, on top of the 25 Savvies that the staff has won, Zach and Josh, who's in the back, but these here are premier, and I'll show you what your competition was like, because you have gold, silver, and bronze. We did 2 silvers and 4 bronze, but I'll read you this one here, which is, first of all, you got the silver in Together We Rise State of the City video address. You got a silver in Inside Homestead Explores the Homestead National Parks trolley. You got the bronze in Hurricane Irma live emergency updates, which many of you participated in. And how cool was it to be in the Emergency Operations Center and be broadcasting live? People were watching us all over the country, finding out what was happening in Homestead while we were in the middle of a hurricane, and being able in real time to get questions and answers. The police chief, the utilities director, they could go ahead and answer questions in real time. People didn't have cable, they didn't have telephones, they didn't have television. What they did have was Facebook, and they got to see everybody on Facebook Live and get their questions answered. We got, 40, 50,000 views over the course of that time nationally. We also got the bronze in Andrew and the Phoenix, tribute to the city staff. We've got bronze for Hitting the Road traffic information, and we got Inside Homestead interviews, and that was a bronze as well. And I'll just give you one example of, in the category of the silver, we got silver with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total got the silver in this particular category. Who were the others? CBS News Digital 60 Minutes Overtime. So when that statue was won, one of our peers was 60 Minutes Overtime. We also had the Recording Academy Grammys on location, Los Angeles. That was another one that got one of those statues. Also, Expedia won one, and Clear Vision Media and Tinabeth Travels. Those were basically the people, the kind of productions that got those statues, and 6 of them had the city of Homestead right on their name. And Josh, I know you're in the back. Congratulations to you. Zach, I'm sorry you're not here. And everybody else involved with the staff. And of course, Mayor and Council, those are your awards just as much as they are anybody else for setting the standard and being supportive of the strategy and encouraging and, of course, funding the operation. And so that's the good news for tonight. We have more good news. Our own Kamitra, she has completed her master's in public administration, and she'll be getting her degree in December. No clapping.
No clapping, no clapping.
Sorry, we're happy, but we can't express it. And then we have, of course, so congratulations to you. And we have Anna Alvarez is back with us as our new customer service director. So we're happy. David Hebert, city manager of Oakland Park, stole her away, and we stole her back. And here she is in the new position, and we're happy to have her. And finally, I'll say this, I'll talk in code. I'm really happy to be here, and I thank you all for your patience and for your support. And this is where I feel my mission is, and I'm inspired every day that I'm here.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Top that?
Absolutely not. I'd like to request 2 executive sessions, one in the matter of City of Homestead, would be Newport LTD, case number 13-039665 in Miami-Dade County, and another in Thurston v. City of Homestead, case number 19-018194, also in Miami-Dade County.
Mayor, I forgot one thing. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sophia, don't go anywhere, please. This here is Sophia. Sophia is our summer intern from Princeton. She's our 4th one every year. Princeton, thanks to Weiss Sirota, sends us an intern from Princeton. And Sophia is our first one graduated this year. So we have our first graduate, and she is our 4th. Sophia, did you want to just say hi to everybody? And she flies away as of tomorrow.
Yeah, so, this summer has absolutely flown by, and I can say with 100% seriousness that, getting to sit in on these meetings and see all of the council people and the mayor and the vice mayor and the community come out has been something very special for me. So thank you so much for, creating this environment where someone like me can come and actually experience part of local government.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia.
Councilwoman Fairclough.
Thank you. We were missing some hardware up there. So speaking of awards, I'd like to publicly congratulate our youth council. This weekend, we traveled to the Florida League of Cities annual conference, and the Youth Council was recognized for another statewide competition. They won, and I'd like to thank my colleagues for your support in helping them to get there. They also facilitated a presentation on their community service project, and it was just over the top. They're truly in a league of their own. They know their charge is we don't enter a race to come in second place. So they definitely brought that statewide win. It took us a couple of years to get there, but we finally made it, and it did so well, and they were so impressive that the incoming president actually asked me to work with him to create a blueprint to give to other municipalities so that they can start their own youth councils. So if you get a chance to thank our youth council, just congratulate them for the work that they're doing. And I would also like to announce that our STEM Saturday session begins again on this Saturday at the FICO Williams. There will be another session from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. So if you have any children out there in the community, bring them out to the FICO Williams for another exciting STEM Saturday session. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bailey.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. The 2 items. I think the first question is in regards to the lights on 312th Street. I know that we have had lights down from my understanding for almost a month, from the entrance of Malibu Bay pretty much down to the entrance of Waterstone and Waterstone on 312th Street. Is that due to anything specifically, any accidents? Because I know there was an accident up the street, but all those lights have been down for some time. So I saw some construction work in the entrance of Malibu Bay. I'm thinking that might have done something to it, but I'm not clear on it, but I've still continued to see the lights down. So I'm trying to get an update or find out what's going on there.
Councilman Maldonado, I can't answer that question right now. I wasn't aware the lights were out, but I'll check into that and let you know.
Yeah, so just you guys try to find out. I just got back in town on Saturday, so I wasn't sure. I didn't see anything at nighttime, so I'm just kind of something off the top of my head. And then second, in regards to traffic on 312th Street, I've had a lot of complaints from the Malibu entrance of the citizens where basically they've waited over 20 minutes to get into their community. I know that we know that the school just started, and there's normally that first part of traffic that happens, and I'm assuming it's going to wean off like it's done over time. But what are we doing in regards to helping out our community members get into their community? And that, from my understanding, and I've had different individuals send me pictures and asking what's going on here and can we help. And so I think it's really the entrance of Malibu Bay that I've heard the complaints from, but I'm pretty sure they're happening at Waterstone as well.
It's the standard first week of school, it's a very difficult issue, and it's really bearing in that Waterstone area. There is a new principal at Waterstone. We have a complete traffic detail for all the schools, but especially we've been targeting Waterstone because I was out there Monday and saw the problems that existed. It did get better Tuesday, but then again, it's fallen back Wednesday. There is a standard problem that still exists from that Malibu exit for people that are coming out of there wanting to go eastbound on Campbell Drive. We're working with the county trying to stress to them the fact that we need a traffic signal there. We have not heard back from them anything positive yet. That's still before them. For the overall traffic flow coming out of Malibu that wants to go eastbound, that's mainly the problem there. They really need a traffic light because of what comes out of Malibu Bay from the north side and then Crystal Lakes on the south side. The school issue, we're continuing to work with the principal. We've had a little bit of pushback initially from what the feedback I've received from them on how that's being handled, and their concerns are, or their attitude actually has been, this traffic plan that we put into effect has worked at many other schools. Well, that to me isn't a really good answer because it not necessarily is good for that Waterstone traffic flow. So we're going to continue to work with them and hopefully resolve that issue. And as far as the school part of it goes, as the week progresses.
Yeah, I'd ask the manager and staff to help out on this matter, and you just try to figure out, what we could do to help them out to expedite this.
I know the first day I was out there and I called the traffic supervisor that he was actually down towards the south end addressing another school issue and redirected him because the traffic was actually backed up eastbound from Waterstone to the Turnpike entrance. And in all my years here, I've never seen it that bad. So I knew something was going on. I know they have construction there on 33rd Avenue south of Campbell, which kind of restricted a little bit of the lane movement for eastbound on that far right lane because of the traffic going southbound on 33rd. It was down to one lane, but regardless, I've never seen it that bad as it was.
That's my point, where I know that over time, obviously I've lived there for quite some time and we're kind of used to the pattern. School starts, every parent wants to walk their kid over to school, and then that kind of fades away after a month or so. And then we get some type of normalcy, but this seemed to be something a little extraordinary, the wait time to get into the community. So I know that there's been some issues with the entrance of the Homestead Hospital, with the construction damage that we just spoke about. Again, but there seemed to be something happening, so I think what you're shedding some light on helps out. But that being the case, I would ask for staff to step in and help out where possible, just so we get things worked out. Thank you,
sir.
You could go ahead, and that's it for me.
Go ahead. All right, Vice Mayor had a...
Just real quick, I think it might be beneficial if the manager was to call the school company that runs that particular charter school out there, because I know that there has been pushback, speaking with Colonel Kennedy from the administration there. So I think it would be very beneficial perhaps if you would reach out to the managing company. Thank you.
Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. The pushback, it's an interesting thing for a school and an administration that runs in our city. I mean, this is not what I wanted to talk about, but it seems to be an important issue out there in the morning, in the afternoon. And I've seen a couple of different designs with that property that I don't know if anybody's seen them, that there could be some relief with some additional engineering of some traffic patterns in and around that school with its own property. So I don't know if anybody's seen those things or had talked about those things, but until we solve it, it's going to be a problem. And I think it's up to us to at least entertain and even maybe getting involved with some type of engineering and looking at the process and who's going to pay for it, and that comes later. But when somebody's pushing back on our
police department and our traffic control, and when we're trying to actually protect the public and its safety is a little alarming to me. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is, and I want to give some praise out to Julio Bria, and let everyone know that we are actively communicating with the county on the reconstruction of the road, North Canal and Southwest 328th Street. I'm not happy with the progress. It's not a project that we are in control of, and I'm sure it impedes not only during the school days now that school's back in session, but I'm seeing the traffic backing up at all three intersections, at BJ's, at Tennessee, and then at Farm Life. And we are going to continue to work with them. In an email we received from the county that said the project was scheduled to be complete in January of this year, and now they're telling me it won't be complete until June of next year. To me, it's unacceptable. Our people, our city, our residents deserve better service than that. And we cannot control what the county is doing with that road. I, for one, drive that road 3-4 times a day. And they want to come at me with excuses of the rain, setbacks, this and that. Let me tell you something. When I drive that road and I see nobody actually out there working, you can't come back at me with excuses. Show me that you're working. Show me the progress. I've seen pipes laying out there for a month now. They haven't moved. So I want to thank you, Julio, and we're gonna get on them again this week again, because I'm seeing no activity again, and it seems that when we make a phone call, they show up. And I'll tell you a quick little story. One of the reasons they said it rains a lot down here. The next day it was raining. They had 3 crews out there working in the rain. So we're aware of it, and I know that Julio and I, we've got emails going back and forth with these folks. I just want to say thank you for your patience and your understanding, and we're going to continue to push them to get this project done as quickly as possible, because they got both of our east-west corridors messed up. You got 328th messed up right now, you got Palm Drive messed up right now, and it's just not fair to the people down here. So I just want to say thank you, Julio, for tolerating me and putting me in connection with the right people. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilman Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given this is an election year, I want to do my part to make sure we keep a level playing field. And it was brought to my attention that there are some candidates out there using our facilities to promote their campaigns. So I want to know if there's something that we've got in place that fines the candidates if they do something like that, or how do we curb that so these political candidates aren't using our facilities to promote their campaign?
City Attorney, do you have any feedback on that? And I think to add to that point, I mean, I know that there's some facilities used, but I've also seen some logo use by various candidates as well, of using the city logo, on their campaign literature and on their campaign paraphernalia, and that's never occurred before in the past. I mean, is there any kind of recourse? Is that allowable? What are the rules there?
Okay, so 2 separate and distinct issues. With respect to the use of the city seal, there's actually a Florida statute that governs the use of city seal, and it's a misdemeanor, a second-degree misdemeanor for somebody other than a city employee or official to use it in their official capacity. And kind of obscure, so it's possible people don't know about that. If the council would like us, as staff, to prepare a letter sort of notifying all of the candidates of, the existence of this statute and just sort of put everybody on notice, then, happy to do that. So that answers the seal question. With respect to limitation of city facilities, we don't currently have rules in place that impose limitations or prohibitions on campaigning in these facilities. If it's something that the council's interested in pursuing or would like to see some options on, obviously there are certain First Amendment considerations in public forum, but I'm happy to put something together for the COW so you can examine if you're interested in implementing anything at all, we can talk about the extent of the limitations you'd like to place on that. And if you can give me some direction now, if that is something that you'd like to do, so I can research specific points, then that would be appreciated.
Councilman Guzman, you still have the floor.
Yeah, well, I don't think the city facilities should be used as political places where people are trying to campaign. When people are campaigning, they should campaign on their own and do their own fundraisers and do whatever they're doing on their own, but not use our facilities to promote their campaign. So I'd like us to go in a direction where we put something in place, letting these candidates know that they should not or they cannot use our facilities for campaigning. If you guys agree, or if you guys want to give me some direction, that'd be great.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. As far as it goes with the logo of the city being used, I think that perhaps in the qualifying package, the clerk could possibly put a letter so that we know that they've been warned that it's not allowed to be used. And then if it's followed after that, I think we should proceed with the, it said it was a misdemeanor. Follow up with whatever needs to be done there to enforce the protocol, because I think it is misleading and against what's the best for the city to be involved in the political campaign like that. So that's how I would, I think that a letter could be installed in the qualifying package that this is a warning not to use the logo any longer, and they've got to sign it as part of their qualification. And then after that, if they do that again, then we should proceed forward with whatever the law allows us to proceed forward with. And as far as I agree with Councilman Guzman, you know, our people are not anticipating you coming in there to campaign, so I believe that those places should also be off limits with whatever we need to do there. Thank you.
Councilman Roth.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't know that we should restrict people who want to wear a T-shirt to an event supporting some other candidate, but giving them a forum that's not organized by the city to just speak publicly at a city venue might be a different way to look at it. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't have the opportunity, but it has to be telegraphed out there that everyone has an opportunity to come to these events and to speak. A perfect example was the event that was held at the community center last week or a week before, where candidates from in this election were given a platform and allowed to speak to the people that were there to enjoy a pretty much a private lunch. And I just think, as Vice Mayor Burgess said, they're not expecting that when they go to this event to be, put in a position to sit there and listen to people speak about a public campaign, that they're there just to enjoy a lunch. So I think that's more of the challenge is, can they wear the shirt to the city venue? There's specific signage rules that we have to go by. We can't put signage on city property except for the day of the election. Can somebody wear a pin into a venue that is a city venue? Can somebody come to the city council and just wear a shirt at this and promote their campaign? I think they can do that, but I don't think they should have at a venue where people aren't anticipating it to be a campaign scenario, that they're allowed to go in there and publicly speak about their campaigns unless all candidates are invited and welcomed to that specific event. That's kind of my piece on it. We can all, I'm running, my colleague, Councilwoman Faircloth is running, and, we don't bring anything to public venues when we're there. We're there to serve our constituents in our capacities when we're there. But that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, and I think my biggest concern is if you have a quasi-city event or formal city event that then somehow turns into a political event, is kind of my biggest concern, where people are showing up thinking that this is an operation run by the city or appears to be run by the city, and the next thing you know, you have people running for office, getting up and talking about platforms or handing out, campaign literature. It just, that's where I think the real issue for me is kind of trying to figure out that line. I don't know how we manage it as far as, like Councilman Ross says, as far as is there free speech issues if you start regulating people wearing shirts and pins and, so I don't know where we can, but I know my biggest concern is that if it looks like it's a city function, if it looks like a quasi-city function, if it was organized by the city, to then allow politics to be injected into it, that's where I have the problem, because now all of a sudden we lose that kind of neutrality as a government body, and we start looking more like we're advocating for or allowing, injecting politics into it, and I don't think that people should be subject to that unless they're voluntarily wanting to be, in which case, if they want to rent the facility and it's purely a campaign event, I don't know what the rules would be for that or what the council feels about that. So it's kind of where I am on it. Councilwoman Fairclough.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think moving in this direction levels the playing field. This is not being done to single out any particular candidate, but this is for everyone who's on the ballot and running for office. There's a manner in which you campaign, and I feel that using the city seal is off limits. So a letter should be sent out to all candidates expeditiously. In addition to city functions, you can't really regulate what someone wears, and I wouldn't want to advocate for that. But the distribution of literature and using the microphone as a platform to propel your campaign forward, I think is unacceptable. As a candidate myself, I would never do that. I've never done any of that. You have to campaign outside of city limits. So that levels the playing field. So this is not about anyone else. This is about all of us. And all of us should govern ourselves accordingly. And I think that's what this is about.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Guzman, this is still your floor. So if you have any
Comments?
No further comments?
No, thank you.
Does city staff feel that they have direction based on concerns raised or what?
Well, I've heard a couple of concerns, but interchangeable words, and I just wanted to drill down on what we're looking at. Because some of you have discussed a city-sponsored function, and you're not feeling that it was appropriate for a city-sponsored function for people to use that platform. And that's one issue. But a separate issue is just rules imposed on various city facilities absent a function, but just somebody going into those facilities and passing out campaign flyers or things like that. And I haven't heard you guys drill down on that point yet. And if that's something that you're interested in as well as the function, then I'll try to address both of those issues. But just is the consensus that it's both the facility and a function?
Councilwoman Fairclough,
Yes.
to the floor.
I say yes, because coming into City Hall distributing literature is off limits.
Okay.
Going to FICA Williams or the William Dickinson Community Center distributing literature should be off limits.
Okay,
So
I just
say
wanted to be
yes.
wanted to be clear because I heard interchangeable language there.
I concur. Councilman Maldonado?
What about our parks and facilities, like Harris Field and when we have the soccer and things of that nature? What about that part? And I think I just bring it up because I recall, being one time out at in Harris Field, and it was election time. I wasn't running at the time, but I saw other folks doing it, and kind of just brought, it bothered me. I didn't bring it up at the time. And it was kind of just like, folks here are enjoying the park, family time, and then you have people kind of impeding on it with politics. Go to their homes, go to the houses, go elsewhere, but, not in our parks as well. So maybe look into that as well, Matt, in regards to that, because that's considered our facilities. Am I correct in that? Okay, so I want to bring up the parks as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor Burgess.
So I guess for clarification with myself too, this letter would need to be in the package on Monday. So we need to make a decision tonight whether or not we want a letter in there that warns people not to use the city logo, and that at least is the clerk could put that in her package. So we need at least that in there by Monday, because qualifying starts Monday, if I'm not mistaken on my days. If that's the will of the council.
Yeah, and actually, I liked your prior recommendation too, and I don't know what the legalities, that's the attorney's gonna have to chime in. Not only is it in the packet as a letter, but it's part of the signature pages where you actually sign acknowledging receipt that you've seen it and you've read it.
And that way, there's no question later on if it's used inadvertently, and I don't know if you can include the campaigning within facilities as part of that warning so that they're acknowledging that they've received notice. Now, I guess the facilities, we'd have to actually do some ordinance changes or something too.
The facilities would be difficult to do by Monday. I'd like to bring this back to you at the COW to discuss the extent of the limitations. But with respect to the seal, we can certainly come up with a form and attach the statute notifying them that this is the existence of this and have them sign an acknowledgement. I don't see an issue with that.
They've read and understand, something like
Sure.
that. Okay.
And if they don't sign it, then what do we do? Then, and if it's been used, then we go to step 2 immediately?
Well, whether they've signed it or not, you can move on once they've broken the law. At that point, they've used the seal and they've committed the misdemeanor.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments, I guess, on this go-around? Staff has got good direction? Okay, then Vice Mayor Burgess.
Okay, let me get out my list here tonight. I would like to, in the past, many years ago, we had the Miami-Dade County League of Cities monthly dinner was held at the air base. It's going to be held there again, and I would like to request a use of a trolley or to find out how to do it, because the air base is going to have a static display for the people that come and attend this dinner meeting, and what they don't want is a lot of people driving around the base. So what it does is gives the people that are attending the dinner the ability to go into the building they need to, get on and off of the trolley, go out to the flight line, look at the airplane, the Black Hawk, talk to a pilot, pilots, whatever it may be, and then go back to the dinner hall. We did it before. I know that it wasn't a big expense, but I think I covered it out of my budget. Perhaps you could come up with what the cost would be and see what we would need to do as a committee here to see if we could get that done. We've kind of talked about school traffic. I know that 328 was also an issue, and I know you're working with those people over there. And one of the biggest things that concerns me is with these traffic logs is the ability or inability for the safety police officers that need to get the other side of town. Or the other day, the fire station was blocked over there on 328, and if they had to go anywhere, they weren't even going to be able to get out. So those are the things that, you know, as we talk to people that may be in a position to help us, we need to not only stress that traffic isn't moving, but that our safety vehicles are unable to move throughout town too. And then that reminds me, both Councilman Roth and Councilman Maldonado, when I was fighting for the stoplights at Pacific and 137 and 328, I wrote a lot of emails, Mr. Brea wrote, but the thing that got us over the top was actually driving downtown and having a meeting face-to-face with the people. So I know emails are easy and good, especially when we live a 2-hour drive from downtown some days, but that drive took care of all of our deals in one day. We got rid of the roundabout they were going to try to put in front of the fairways and made that into a stoplight and got the other 2 stoplights okayed. So a drive down there and face-to-face means a lot more than a phone call or a email, unfortunately, for us with the drives. Dennis, over there on the turnpike, and I've seen some wrecks here, the yield sign seems to be missing for those people that are coming westbound and merging onto the turnpike. There was one there when the exit ramps were originally built, but it's gone now. Perhaps you could, or Julio could get somebody to take a look at that and see what happened. I know the Colonel and them have been over there for several calls because people, even though they kind of yield, they don't really yield because the sign's gone, so they're not sure what to do. Mr. Brea, we had spoke about possibly making over there by the Dairy Queen, and I think that's 147, not the Dairy Queen, the new racetrack, making 2 left lanes coming out of that road onto Campbell Drive. Is there any kind of update on that, or have we gotten any movement from the county? Got to turn them on, Steve.
Sorry.
We did request that to be added to that traffic signal, that intersection.
Right.
And I'll follow up with them to see where they're at, but we haven't heard anything from them.
And while
yet.
you're there, I know that Councilman Roth had, Maldonado, one of them had talked about the left-hand turn lane in the Publix too. So if we could maybe
those 2 are the same.
push them along on that, or if you guys go down there for your chat, bring those 2 things up with them. And then I've got one last request tonight that was forwarded to me by the mayor of El Portal. They're a small community who's in need of some police cars, and I had spoken to our colonel and the chief, and I know that we have some that are getting ready to go out of service that we usually auction off. I'm not sure how much money we usually make, not much, because they're usually 10-year-old cars or whatever, but they are asking if we would possibly consider giving them a couple of cars or an SUV or whatever we've got that's going out for auction. Perhaps we could compile a list. I know that we've got new cars coming, so we're going to be cycling some out. But that would have to become before the council for an okay. They, you know, they're a very small municipality and they just don't have the money. One of the things that they do is their reserve officers mean a lot to them, and they're trying to get some more cars for those guys so that they don't have to take a full-timer's car and use it all night, and then he gets it back in the morning from somebody else. So they're trying to get a few cars to build up. So if that's something that you guys would consider after we can get some information compiled, I'd like to bring them to the next meeting, perhaps how many cars there might be available or what might be available, if anything, after the police department gets cycling through on their new ones that I know are coming, and what the value, Carlos, just so people know, or Jerry, whomever's in charge of that, just so we know, you know, what an average car does bring and what it means to us versus what we do. So thank you.
All right.
Is there anybody that has any questions about the cars or anything I can answer? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Lastly, I just had, as we talked about the charter review, I mentioned the names of the people, but I think also start considering, you know, are there any specific questions or any parts of the charter that you as a council person would like to have the committee specifically look at? Because we'll open it up and they'll go from, you know, chapter 1 to chapter 10, and they'll look at it all themselves, but I do think that we should give them some guidance. So to the extent that you guys start looking through the charter and there's any specific items that you would like them to specifically look at, that would also be good for us to have a discussion and debate and a submission to that committee once we get it formed. So start thinking of that as well. Otherwise, I don't have anything else tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? We're adjourned.
We've got a couple more.